Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video I wanted to show you a couple Dracula orchids, a couple opposite Dracula orchids. The cute little miniature white colored Dracula LOTAX, and I have a Dracula Vampira in bloom. And I haven't done a video on one of these guys for a while, so I pulled them off the shelf. And yeah, I thought I'd talk about their care and culture and show you the blooms on these guys. Let's go in a little bit closer. Wintertime is the best time for Dracula orchids. They always kind of struggle in the summer. They don't like the heat at all. So the fact that they're in the cold side of the greenhouse and it's kind of chilly and cool and humid and there's very little light, they just come out and bloom very easily. Now LOTAX, this one is an easy one to grow, I find. Cute little miniature white flowers. It blooms above the basket, which is nice, and although the Vampira I'm about to show you is blooming above the basket, usually the bloom spikes go down, so it's kind of unusual. So this guy can be in a pot instead of a basket, and you won't miss out on the bloom spikes. It's kind of grassy-like. It's an interesting looking orchid. It grows quite quickly, and you can see all the old bloom spikes. This thing blooms basically all year long for me. It doesn't mind it a little bit warmer, doesn't mind it a little bit cooler, and it's kind of a cute little thing. Each spike only has one bloom on it. It's not sequential. It kind of runs. You can see it's like running out of the pot with its roots. So it's very easy to divide that way. And yeah, basically the trick with these guys, lots of moss, a little bit of light, lots of humidity, and don't let them dry out completely. You can see all the moss has actually got moss growing on it, like green moss is on the pots now. So this one's very easy to care for. The winter lows are 10 Celsius at the very lowest, and the summer highs are just above 30. And this guy basically does okay. He does fine as long as it doesn't dry out. But let's put him down and we'll spend a little bit of time with Dracula Vampira. Now it's a much bigger orchid. The bigger the Dracula orchid, usually the harder they are to take care of. I have to tilt this guy down because the bloom is there. So let's have a look at it. See if I can bring it towards the camera here and get you in focus. Yeah, it's just beautiful. So this one's weird because the spike went up, not down. Usually they always point towards the ground, but usually the spike come out at the bottom of the pot. I'm not sure if that makes it easier or harder. And I can maybe sit it right there and maybe get a better look at it here. There we are. So they're fairly big. This one's not the biggest one I've had, but the top of the spike up here to the bottom of the spike is a little bigger than my hand. You know, it's probably 8-9 inches, maybe 10 inches at the most from here to down here. I have had bigger ones, but this is a fairly recent division, and I don't think it's the first bloom off of it, because just before I started the video I cut off an old bloom spike, which is simple procedure. If you've watched my videos, you know how to do that. But yeah, I just want to show you this guy because it's absolutely gorgeous. This is by far my favorite Dracula orchid, and definitely in my top 5 orchids of all time. You'll see some of my logos are even of this plant. So yeah, Dracula Vampira. So it's much harder to grow than the LOTAX. Much harder to grow. Are you going to sit properly now? There we go. Bigger leaves, never wants to dry out, never wants to be hot. These guys suffer in the summertime. They hate it. Direct sunlight they don't like, the warmer temperatures they don't like, the lower humidity where I'm constantly having to try to mist and use the foggers to run the humidity and up it, they don't like. So this is their time of year to sort of thrive. In the summer they continue to grow, but they don't grow at nearly the pace, and they don't have as nice of blooms. If they bloom in the summertime, it's much smaller. Same mix. It's very mossy. It's in a basket. And I put the tape around the basket here because I can control the humidity that way. If a spike wants to come out, it will push through the tape. The bottom's still open for the spikes to come out. But I found in the summertime these baskets dry out so fast. So for the health of the plant, I put that tape around there. And when this goes dry, no matter how old the tape is, the tape goes clear again instead of opaque. So it's kind of interesting. These guys take very light fertilizer. If you fertilize too much or you have too strong of salts in your water, you'll get black tips on them. That's pretty standard with Dracula orchids. I'm always battling that. They basically need RO water all the time. There's some new growth there. But you can see the leaves on this guy, much bigger than the Dracula LOTAX, totally different shape. If you didn't know they were both Dracula orchids, you wouldn't even think they were from the same group of orchids. But yeah, super rewarding if you can keep the humidity up, temperatures down. I've taken these guys and displayed them in orchid shows before, and you literally you have a couple hours out of the greenhouse before this bloom starts to wilt. You have to constantly spray it. You got to put this bloom into a bag to transport it. They're not an orchid that you're going to be able to ever grow in the house, unfortunately. They need the humidity, and without it, they won't bloom. So yeah, what else can I tell you? We talked about light. They just don't like light. Basically full shade. They do well under fluorescent lights because they don't produce any heat. So right now in the greenhouse, it's pretty chilly. Temperatures, let's see, I'm just turning around, is 60 degrees right now. It's fairly early in the morning, but so that's like 15 Celsius, and they're completely happy at 15. And under the lights at 15 Celsius, they're just basically thriving. The soil, never let it dry out. The bloom spikes come out of the bottom of the pot normally, and yeah, you can kind of see, like, they're called a monkey orchid. You can see the monkey face in there too. But I just love the black on the camera. It doesn't show up the same as the black in real life. It is really, really black, although it looks kind of brown now. But yeah, one of my favorite species of orchids. I'm going to leave it at that for today. I hope you liked this video. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe to my channel. And as always, thanks for watching.